Peace, fam. Get ready for Sacred Sons' biggest sale of the year. As we deepen into the holy days, Sacred Sons has Black and Gold Season. We're bringing it back around. Black and Gold Season is 20% off of all Sacred Sons offerings, gatherings, merchandise, and gift cards. Go to sacredsons.com, click on the event that you would like to purchase. Use the code, all caps, Black and Gold for 20% off. And with that said, go to sacredsons.com. We have completely redesigned our website. It's fully dialed. This Black and Gold season includes EMXs, immersions, Maui Mana, LT1, LT2, Prime Leadership, all of our merchandise, online courses, and gift cards. I know people are always out there looking for what's a great gift for a dad, for a father, for a son, for a brother. Now you can give the gift of brotherhood to a man in your life. And what a better gift than to send them on a quest, on an initiation, or for a rites of passage experience. Give the gift of brotherhood. Go to sacredsons.com. Use the code, all caps, Black and Gold for 20% off. And we will see you on the other side. Much love, fam.
The brother right now whose heart is numb, how do you crack the ice of being so numbed out to allow the heart to thaw?
Numbing is still an active process. And sometimes the intention is not to numb. Sometimes the intention is to just feel something, right? People will numb with substance, right? Consciously speaking, but unconsciously what they really want, the desire is to feel more. To start thawing that heart, it requires permission from self to feel. In that feeling state, whatever's coming up, it's neither positive nor negative. It just is a feeling, and we get to honor that because it's so easy to numb, right? Somebody can pick up their phone and that's a numbing process, but it's a condition. It's not a life sentence. So just the permission to feel just 1 millimeter at a time. It doesn't have to be all of it at once, and what you are ready for. And the question to start is, am I ready to feel? And if I'm not ready, what needs to happen first?
Grand Rising Sacred Sons. Adam Jackson here with another episode of the Sacred Sons podcast. Brothers and sisters, what does it mean to be redeemed? And what does a true road of redemption look like? What does it feel like? What scars are left? What stories are still here? I think a lot of this work that we do as men is about just that. It's about redemption. How will you be seen in the eyes of God? How will you be judged? And is there a clear path? And so with that, today's guest, Nathan Kohlerman. He's a beloved brother in the Sacred Sons community. He's a leader. Nathan, when did you and I first meet, brother?
September 2020.
September 2020. That would have been back at Convergence 4.
C4.
Forging leaders through the storm. Forging leaders during the storm. That was another time, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And ever since then, you know, Nathan, I've been witnessing you, following your trajectory into leadership and just like bringing through that spiritual savagery that you do.
Yeah, man, that's what I'm about. I love it.
I'm excited to learn your particular story of redemption in an attempt to inspire those who are on their own path. So with that, our guest today, he's a father, an alchemist, an author and speaker, and he is empowering leaders with the skills and systems to amplify awareness through emotional agility and resiliency. Please welcome Nathan Kohlerman.
Thank you, man. This feels so good to be here.
Yes,
So good.
Let's get right into it, man. I know you're a father of 3 now?
3.
4? 3? Okay. I'm also a father of 3. 4th is on the way. So, you know, we're pushing forward. I know you got a lot on your plate, so I want to drop right in with a check-in. So with that, I want to invite us to take a deep breath for ourselves. Nathan, with everything going on in the world, with everything going on in your world, what is most alive within you?
Man, what's most alive is this desire for total liberation. Just total liberation, whether it's myself or just seeing the chaos of the world and all the oppression and a lot of the violence and chaos. You know, what I see is a deep need for liberation, whether it's liberation of the system or liberation of expression, liberation of the chains, right? The internal chains that constrict and squeeze the heart, that prohibit us from opening up to who we really are. That's what's alive for me today.
That liberation of oppression. Yeah. Adam checking in. I'm checking in with this idea that we're not going to get out of this life without a fight. And we're seeing that play out in so many ways in the world. And there's more and more of a sense that the fight could be coming to our doorstep. And I don't mean that in the ways of like, you know, civil war or anything like that. But there's another step where like, at this time, it's so important for us to acknowledge that the war is not outside of us, but within us. And we have to look within because we're seeing so much violence outside, so much of that oppression that you just spoke to. And so it's important that we look inside, look into that inner colonizer, into that inner oppression. Where are we suppressing ourselves? You know, and where can we seek that light to liberation that you're calling in? So with that, I'm in. And yeah, man, you know, I want to just get right into your story. And let me ask you this, because we are facing global warfare and you're a former member of the military. What branch were you in?
Army.
You're in the Army. Were you a combat veteran?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you see war in the world, you have a different perspective from this place now. What is your perspective on war as someone who's been a part of it so closely?
Yeah, I think from the beginning of time, war has always been in our history. It's always shaped what humanity values, I believe. And although it's always been a part of it, I don't feel like it's necessary. You know, if we can just communicate, right? If we can communicate and if we can be honest with what these wars are really over, then maybe there might not be one, right? And, you know, it's what we talk about in Sacred Sons and any other community that we're a part of. If we truly are an embodied community and we do prioritize the well-being of everyone in it, we know that there's no war that will solve our own issues, right? It just creates more, right? But really look at the truth of why war exists. Look at who's funding the war and what these wars are really over. Is it really over land and territory, or is there a greater agenda happening, right? Because if there wasn't a greater agenda happening, then why do we have security clearances? Why is there a need to know basis instead of a right to know, right? And that creates a lot of distrust. You know, why are we in a time now where people distrust the government more than ever before? Because all their lies have been surfacing for years. And as a veteran fighting a war that was never mine, my nervous system was never in agreement with it. Ever. Right? I joined out of survival. You know, we've talked about this. I joined for my own survival in the world because I had nothing to fall back on. It's either that or wind up dead or in prison with what I was doing. So like we see the wars in the streets, we see the wars on the news. And the more important thing, I think, is what you mentioned was the war within. And it's facing that war because we're in these wars because those who are in charge or in a perceived position of power, they don't go internally into that space. They try to just control everything outside of them. And that's what war is. It's control.
You know, especially in these times when war is being fought in the name of God, this is the time when exactly what you said. Who is this war actually serving? Is it God?
How can that be true? And so when you look at what it's actually feeding, power, money, greed, resource acquirement, like these are false idols. And we know what to do with false idols. And it's not to worship them. It's to destroy them. And we're not going to destroy them outside of ourselves. Right? We have to do the inner work, so just to bring this back, it's like, this mission that we're on in Brotherhood and just in all of these modalities that are surfacing as a part of this conscious awakening. We know this is a 1,000-year cycle. We're just about to hit the next cycle. I've been hearing here in 2027, we're beginning the so-called, let's just call it the next phase or experience. And so we have to look at it that way. Look into that inner spiritual war. And that's a place that they actually can attack us if we look at it from that perspective. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's even biblical to some degree, right? Like you said, like the false idols.
Yeah.
Right. And what did we see in all the texts, right, of all these different religious organizations, right? When worshiping of false idols happened, the downfall of civilization was imminent. And that all what we're seeing right now, these are all the initial stages where organizations, civilizations, they start to eat themselves out from the inside, right? Because I think right now, war, from an imagery place, I feel like it's the maggots that are starting to form, and it's starting to feed on the flesh into where everything's starting to rot. And that process of decay is again necessary. And 2027, like you mentioned, it's going to open up the opportunity, right? Like fire, right? Fire always burns something down so something else can grow in its place. And that's what it is. And that's very alive. Like I feel that fire in me a lot, right? Over the last several months, I felt so much fire, so much aggression, not violence, aggression, which is the urgency to prepare. What you said when we first started, right? Like war is coming to our front doors, but it's like coming to the front door of our heart. And it's going to challenge that every step of the way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. I love that you even mentioned the analogy. It's kind of like as above, so below, because the war is out there and it's right on our city streets. And you grew up in it. You grew up in gangs and violence and drugs and these type of things. This was in Arizona and Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then that ultimately led you into the military, like you said. But what did you learn from that time in your life? Because there's also a sense of brotherhood in those gangs. I know it to be true myself. There's also a sense of like worshiping false idols, going to war for money, because it's all the same stuff, that's happening out there. It's coming into our streets. What was that experience like for you? What did you glean for that in a way towards your own redemption?
Yeah, I've been sitting with that a lot over the last few years, just because my perception of it always changed, right? Yeah. There's some days where I'll wake up and I'll be like, man, I was so fucking dumb for doing that stuff. And then there's other days where I'll wake up and I'm like, damn, I'm so grateful I went through that. It's the polarization of it.
Right.
And I would say the lessons to be learned was that violence solves nothing. It really doesn't. It causes more problems and more pain internally for much longer than I could even fathom in the moment where it happened. Little did I know I'd be struggling for 15, 16 years after one event or two events and three events, and they just started compounding on top of one another, in which violence was just normalized to where war didn't really have an effect on me.
Yeah.
And what I learned was that violence is a pathway to becoming completely numb.
Right.
Right. I learned that. And I would say the next thing I learned was that there is brotherhood and discernment, right? Is this community really here for me when they really need me, or are they only here with me to benefit from what I have to offer?
Whew. Powerful distinction to make.
Mm-hmm. And I see that all the time, right? That was my resistance in Sacred Sons, right? What do people want from me? right? And there was this like belief, or this notion, I should say, that the only people that want to hang around me are ones who want me to commit violent acts or do something for their own benefit, but really at the price of my own safety and well-being. So it taught me on how to sniff that shit out. Right. And I call myself like a human bullshit barometer. and it taught me that. Right. It taught me how to be a barometer for everything that I feel needs a boundary.
Yeah. And you said the word perfectly. It's discernment. I mean, being able to be decisive in real time, utilizing that bullshit barometer, and also all of your life experience in a moment can mean everything.
Mm-hmm.
It can change the course of your life. And being, and of course that also, is connected to the heart and connected to the gut with intuition. And until those places are clear, that's when you actually acquire the authentic discernment.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I would even say the final lesson, the one I'll mention, is that we are so much more resourceful than what we think we are capable of resourcing. Right. And anyone who's ever navigated a drug addiction, right? Drug addiction is a pathway to understanding how to be resourceful with absolutely nothing. Of course, it's maybe not in the most aligned ways, right? But now, 15, 16 years later, I can look back and I can say, wow, that really taught me how to find what I want and what I need. And it also taught me the ways in which how not to get it, right? How not to go about it. And I think for me, I would rather find all the ways of how not to do something first, because those are the most powerful lessons, right? It's not failure as a state or who I am. It's failure as an event, and every event has a lesson. And I think those lessons started compounding over one another. And it really taught me how not to show up in a lot of ways, which helped expedite the path now, right? Get all that out early on and show up a little bit better now as a mature adult, right? Because I was just a kid. I didn't know any better.
Yeah. And to that point, there's also a sense that you can only lead people as deeply as you've been. And so there is something to that grit of experience that comes in handy when we're talking about real shadow work, when we're talking about real connection and the rawness with which we know, each of us has the skills to like participate in the work that we do. And so there is a lot of gold that we can glean from that.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I want to specifically talk to the brother right now whose heart is numb. Like, because that, I felt like it really truly is step one. How do you crack the ice of being so numbed out that you're absolutely apathetic towards war, as you were kind of speaking to? What was that process like for you to allow the heart to thaw, to begin to thaw?
Yeah, I like that. The heart thawing process. Gotta bring that through. Yeah, I think just to start is to recognize that numbing is still an active process, whether it's consciously or unconsciously. It's an activity that we are engaging with. And sometimes the intention is not to numb. Sometimes the intention is to just feel something, right? People will numb with substance, right? Consciously speaking, but unconsciously what they really want, the desire is to feel more. And to start thawing that heart, it requires permission from self to feel and to know that in that event or feeling state, whatever's showing up or whatever's coming up, it's neither positive nor negative. It just is a feeling, and we get to honor that, because how many years, how many months, how many days have gone by where we just sit intentionally and allow ourselves to feel something that we might not even be aware of because there's so much busyness. It's so easy to numb, right? Somebody can pick up their phone, and that's a numbing process, right? We can get in the car and kind of just zone out. That's a numbing process, but it's a condition, right? It's not a life sentence. So just the permission to feel just 1 millimeter at a time. It doesn't have to be all of it at once, right? I say that like catharsis does not always equal healing. It's all about pace and what you are ready for. And the question to start is, am I ready to feel? And if I'm not ready, what needs to happen first?
Yeah. So I'll throw that question to you. When were you ready to feel? When did you say, yes, I'm ready to feel? And just to know, I have a sense you've been feeling the whole time, bro. In a way, because you're a deep feeler. You know what I mean? And there's like another level to it, isn't there? Mm-hmm. Where it shifts like, oh, wow, I'm headed towards a new way of being.
Right. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I've always been a deep feeler, super deep feeler. And when I was in drugs, right, my drug of choice was heroin. And that shut everything off because it was almost like the feelings were too much for me to handle. And I knew where those feelings went, and I didn't trust where I went once I got there. So even to your question, it's not so much when was I ready to feel it was when was I ready to be seen in that feeling. And when I was able to stop hiding that part of me, because I thought nobody would ever accept me, because then I'd be this aggressive, violent, terrible person. And then if I let myself go there in the presence or in the witness of other people, I thought that I would hurt them. Right. And it was actually C4, September 2020, when I came to Sacred Sons, is the first time I was seen in that ferocity. And I've been seen in that ferocity before when I was fighting or when I was doing dumb shit, we'll say. And I was getting praised for it. Like it was almost reinforcing that, yeah, the way that you're violent is great because it serves us, right? But in Sacred Sons, it was, we can see you in your violence, and we can see now that in the witness of it, it is serving you. And therefore it is serving us. But it's your work. It's being able to see who I really am and what I'm capable of. And just like Kevin Walton says a lot, how to command it, how not to let that thing inside of me grab the reins and pave a path of destruction everywhere I go.
I'll give you the analogy here because I know you were on Dragon Spirit in those early teams, but it's one thing to flip that switch and become the dragon. And it's another thing to stay who you are in the I am and ride the dragon and guide the dragon and utilize the dragon with intention, with command. Like exactly that.
Yes. Exactly what I'm talking about.
Wow. And so, yeah, speaking to the kind of the hesitations and coming into Sacred Sons, when did that kind of when did the cracks start to come on that layer of armor?
Man, it took a while.
Yeah.
You know, like I would be there, I'd show up fully. I was open to experience it. And I would say even just in the last year, continuously showing up, continuously exposing where I'm out of integrity, where I want to be better, where I'm choosing to be better, and just honoring the path of progression, right? Like the all in to this happened maybe in just the last year, right? Conversations with JMAC, conversations with you. A lot of it was because I didn't have the clarity within me and what my role was or what my purpose or how I could really bring something to the table in a way that really contributed to the community in a good way. Because I would see so many things already great happening. And that's like, oh man, this limitation that I was holding on to was there's no space for me, right? I'm just here. I'm just being invited and, cool. But it wasn't until that certainty really landed in my system of myself, which was over the last year, where I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. And I see over the years, the compounding experience of me was just opening more and more and more. And I think so many people, right, we face that a lot. We come into a new place or we move to a new city, and, how long does that adaptation process take? And there's no deadline. It's just the feeling of being ready, not the cognition or the mental mindset of being ready, because those two are so completely different.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also love another analogy here, which is there is a seat at the table for you. It's up to you to take it. That's how this community operates in terms of leadership. And that doesn't mean everybody rushed to the table all at once. And it also doesn't mean everybody's at the table all at once. It means that when you're in the beingness of it and not in the doingness of it, that's when it's like, oh shit, I was sitting at the table the whole time. I didn't even realize it. There's something there that kind of happens where you're like, oh dang, I'm here now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cool walk to see you. I also experience you, you are a doer. You are a doer. You recently wrote a book in 5 days. I've seen you create different brands and kind of projections out into the ethers. You seem to be in creation mode. Does that feel true for you in this last year?
Yeah.
What's that kind of part of unlocking your creativity been about this year?
Man, it's been over the last 2 years. And I think maybe in that second year back, I was working with Adam Roa, who, was at C5.
Shout out to Adam.
Yeah, he's the man. He taught me a lot. I invested a lot of time and energy and resources into working with him and really going deeper into my creativity. And I started going into poetry and spoken word. I started getting deeper into my writing, deeper into my wordsmithing. And that unlocked something in me that showed me I have the ability to create anything. And it really started washing away all these limitations of, oh, I'm not creative, or I'm not an artist, or, I can't paint, I can't sing, right? All these, different belief subsets I had. And it started opening up. And in the last year, and it happened really after my mom was killed in a motorcycle accident. And it turned something on in me that said, I don't want to leave the world without my name and without my family being remembered. Right? The legacy button got punched real hard. And I even wanted to leave something behind that was meaningful. And everything I'm doing, which is a lot, and I'm recognizing and appreciating the pauses and the small moments along the way. And that's my work now, is to really slow down, maybe not to the point of stopping completely, but really in those micro moments, feeling as much joy as I can for what I'm creating and remembering why I'm doing it. Yeah. It's not from a place of making money, right? Money's always there. Money's always able to be created. It's always able to be fabricated. It's getting printed on the streets left and right. And for me, is this really going to serve humanity? Right. So in that creative aspect of me, right, all these different things that I'm creating, it all has impact in mind. Because if we're not creating something that's impactful, then why are we really creating? Because I had to check in with, even when I first started my businesses and entrepreneurship, coaching and all these things. And I started it because I needed money. I needed to survive. And it never felt fulfilling. It was always burning out and, tripping over myself, stumbling on myself, getting into arguments, getting into conflict, beating myself up because I didn't understand or know what the quote unquote right process was for me until I found actual creativity, and these lessons that have been compounded from Adam and Kevin Walton and, all the men who are in my world, and even the beautiful women who are in my world, who I see them creating amazing things. It's just like, whoa, that is possible. Always. All right. It's the recognition and then the dedication. right? And it was that dedication I really felt over the last year where it said, I'm dedicated to changing the world. And I will. And I am.
I am, and we are. I think it's important to note here, there is no legacy without facing our mortality. And so I love that maybe the creative process here was born from grief. And you've also had some other, man, you're one who's been through it in these last couple of years. I know you spent a lot of time in NICU with the birth of your son.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any piece here that you could, or a story or anything you'd like to share with us around that process of grieving? There's so many of us are grieving out there right now. What can you speak of based on your recent experiences?
Yeah. So the part that I'll speak to first with my son being in the NICU, he was born at 28 weeks, 5 days, 2 pounds, 10 ounces, in and out of the NICU, 66 days, every day, watching him being born in a box.
Just to illuminate the picture, I'm a father as well. I've never had that experience, but just, from that moment of birth to be separated in that way and to not have the closeness and to watch for 66 days, I imagine that feels like an eternity.
Man, I have never felt more powerless or helpless in my life. And me personally, I don't have a lot of faith in a lot of the systems because I've have my own reasons, my own stories, my own experiences for sure. I can go on and on. But, that process of me and my partner, we had this idea of what the birth was going to be. And we wanted a water birth and the midwife and the doula. And we were doing things in a way that felt really, really good. And then to just feel like that was taken, and then to not feel like I have any power in that situation, like that was a grief process. It was like grieving the ideas and the expectations and grieving the vision, just to feel like the hopes were just crushed, which are still showing up and manifesting, and then to stack my mother's death 2 days before he came home, the day before her birthday. Those 3 days were so polarizing. To be in the deepest grief of my life, to be reminded of my mortality, to have one of the most scary moments happen in that hospital after he got a first rounds of the first 4 vaccines. And he was such in a fragile state, and I was feeding him the next day and he went blue. He started choking. His throat was closing. He couldn't drink the milk, and they had to resuscitate him right in front of me. And man, I've never been faced with more loss in such a short amount of time, where I didn't know how to process it at all. And I'm very well equipped in terms of skills and systems and resources and tools and techniques and modalities. But what I will say is that no amount of work I've done could ever have prepared me for that. So for me, it was just honor everything. And it was tough. Man, I saw parts of me show up, parts of me that wanted to drive and find this person, parts of me that wanted to just show up to these court hearings that I'm still getting mail for. These parts of me that I haven't seen in a really long time, and for me, grief showed up a lot in just rage, powerlessness, helplessness. And it wasn't that I was powerlessness or helpless to my circumstances. It was powerlessness and helplessness of not being able to move what was happening within me in the way that I desired.
You're an action-oriented person, and to not be able to take action, that's the kryptonite.
Mm-hmm. It's paralyzing. And what I'm realizing now more and more is my response to pain, my response to grief, my response to hardship is to create, is to build, is to do. And it becomes a bypass very quickly. right? To put all the pain into something else more meaningful, I've realized over the last several months is actually not honoring the process. It's facilitating and trying to divert the energy into a new process in hopes that it might replace it.
And so how do you honor it in a good way?
Man, I just create that space for it now. The very intentional practice every morning, change my whole schedule. I don't start working or moving with purpose in a professional context until about noon every day. And those mornings are designed with a lot of intention now to care for myself, to feel the things that I need to feel, to clear the charges that I might have, to really honor, right, my process, knowing that it might show up in the middle of the day. And I have to have an agreement for that. And I negotiate my calendar. I negotiate a lot of these different aspects of my life now, when before I wouldn't negotiate it. I would just push through it. I would push through it and I'd put it away, or I'd put it into a bucket for later. And then the later became another later and another later and another later. And then it became an explosion. And now it's not pushing anything back. It's honoring it in the moment and checking in with my readiness. And that's kind of what the process is now, just from a more tangible place. If I have something scheduled, then I'll get through that. But then I will really step outside and I'll connect with nature. I'll be with the elements. I'll be able to write the directions. I'll, speak and communicate to my mother, knowing that connection is always there.
Yeah, brother. I mean, just while we're here, would you impart any other words for people in our community, brothers and sisters who are listening? Maybe they've lost a parent, someone who's in a similar situation. Any words of inspiration to share with them?
They are always watching. They are always supporting, praising, acknowledging, and loving right where you're at. And whether we feel them or not, they're always with us. And they're in that little space in the body, right, where we feel where they impacted us, where they live inside of us. And it's something that Bearheart said at C8, which really resonated, which is that we act like our ancestors are already gone, but they're looking through our eyes and they're breathing through our lungs. That whisper in the wind when those leaves hit the ground are the words that they're speaking through the trees. And that water that runs through the stream, it's their tears that are flowing that they weren't able to shed in this life. And they're always there. And nature is just that reminder that we are always connected. Always.
Wow. Bearheart would say something like that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would.
But you just articulated it really beautifully, man. And, they are always watching, and we are here. We are here. And it's time for our impact to be felt. If not for any other reason, why are we here than to have our experience felt deeply through all of us? Through all of us. Life is not happening to me, it's happening through me. And so who am I to discard any of these feelings that are happening through me? Who am I to not experience it fully as intended? And sometimes it's hard. And it's, I have, just like we started, it's like, man, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. There's a part of me that's coming, just to the awareness of that as I'm watching these things unfold on the global scale. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even just on that note, I went to church for the first time in 6 years, about 3 weeks ago. Nice. And yeah, man, it felt really good. Ironically, it's called the Redemption Church.
Really?
Here in Arizona. Yeah.
That's how you know Spirit's working right now in this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's really fascinating because the lesson was Revelations 12 and 13. And I'm a fan of story and symbol work, and I'm a Jungian at heart. And they were talking about this story of the dragon and the woman, the maiden who was pregnant, who was birthing the king of the new world. And these different symbols resembled a lot in this world today. And the overall synopsis of the story itself was that revelation, which I think is almost interchangeable with redemption to a certain degree, it's less about predicting and more about preparing, right? Because it's easy to see the chaos of the world. And, you know, even as people are listening, it's like we hear like the war is coming, you know, and immediately the human mind wants to go towards prediction, you know, but how are we preparing? Right? Preparation is so vital right now, whether it's preparing for a greater purpose, right? Because that could be the war that we're facing. It's in the face of war. What is my purpose? In the face of conflict, how can I source peace? Am I capable of love when I see so much violence, death, and destruction around me? Can I still love and honor those deaths, even when they're not a part of my kin? Because we are all kin, right? Like these are just some of the thoughts and questions that I've been sitting with lately, you know, and trying to understand the deeper revelation of the world right now.
Bro, I love this idea of being a spiritual prepper. I told you were a spiritual savage. You know what I'm saying? You meld these worlds in a good way for me, because it's like, yeah, I can be a prepper for peace. I can be a prepper for purpose. I can be preparing my family by stockpiling memories and love and experiences and having things to look forward to, so that the weight of the world isn't able to knock it down, right? Or to infiltrate. You could say it like that. And so it's like, I love this idea of like, yeah, I'm a prepper and I'm preparing in these ways. And I got some bottled water and I got, you know, solar panels on the roof and those kind of things. But it's like, yeah, there's other ways to prepare. I love that you're bringing that through. Mm-hmm. Because we don't know, you know, when life is coming for us. We don't know when it's our turn. When we're on deck for whatever life has to offer us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love that, to be in preparation and in those ways as well.
Yeah. Stockpiling memories.
Dude, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I've been stockpiling a lot of munitions, so that's a beautiful reminder.
Yeah, and well, let's just go there because you brought in the ancestors. Stockpiling memories also looks like building that altar, putting those pictures up of the ancestors, your grandparents. Maybe you know their story, maybe you didn't. Maybe you're still holding on to something, maybe you're not. But this is also a way to stockpile for the future generations, to let them know the legacy, not only of ourselves, but of those who came before us. Like, this is not always, it's not about us at all. We have to also have that awareness in this. Like, we're a link in the chain. And for many of us, we're breaking chains. You know what I'm saying? We're breaking those curses, and we still got to preserve the memory of those that came before us so that we can prepare for those who are to come. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, 7 generations back, 7 generations forward, man.
Yeah. That's this work. You are going to be at EMX Arizona this January 18th through 21st. Cochise Stronghold. You're going to be leading a team on this journey with us and Sacred Sons. You know, I know you're training leaders out there in all kinds of ways, and also leading through your words, through your speaking. What does it mean to you to lead with Sacred Sons, to invite these brothers into this experience that you benefited from, that's something that's actually impacted your life?
Man, the one thing I always hold on to, and it's what allows me to show up the best for these men, is that all of you is welcome, right? I cherish that so deeply, and I lead with that because I firsthand know what it's like to not accept all parts of me, and the impact in the trials that comes with, the burdens, the invisible burdens, the covert contracts that we make with these parts. And, I'm going to be bringing that through. I'm going to be bringing all of you is welcome here, especially your darkness, because that savage animal inside of you is also the very thing that will allow you to protect your family and those you love and care about, but only if you wish to command it. Only if you learn to command it. And that's what I'm coming through with is to tame the beast, become the beast, and walk with him. Walk with him as an ally. That's Guerrilla Gang.
That's Guerrilla Gang all day, baby. Oh, man. C9 or wherever, Arizona, Guerrilla Gang is coming through. God, I want a Guerrilla Gang t-shirt, bro. Let's get on this.
I'll make it happen.
Yeah, man. We're making so much magic happen in this brotherhood. I think one of the other cool things is to see so many incredible leaders come together under this banner of Sacred Sons. It really raises us all up. I have so many, 43 years old, and I have so many incredible friends, people that I can call on. I hope that the brotherhood has served you and been there for you. Like, I hope, at the very least, for all of us, man, to have someone to be on the other end of that phone when we're willing to pick it up. Have you found that to be true in the community? Have you met you befriended some incredible leaders alongside yourself?
Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, I made some amazing friends. And whether it's compassionate or confrontational, it all is serving. It is all serving. And I even realized in this work and even in any communal work, it's my responsibility to pick up the phone, not to expect that, right? To really have the desire to check in on my friends just as much as I want them to check in on me. And that was the biggest lesson of this last year, feeling this victim come online and feeling like, man, my mom died and nobody called me. Yeah, but I didn't really ask for help. And that's on me. And I own that. To where now it's like, oh, I see the importance now, right? Even in the last post that Sacred Sons made, it was friendship, and there was me with a brother. And it was beautiful, man, to form and forge, I should say, friendships with such powerful men with the hearts that are inside of the organization. It's palpable. And it's unparalleled to anything I've personally experienced. And it's opened the opportunity to start creating it everywhere I go. It's so easy for me to make friends now.
Oh, that's amazing.
So easy for me to make friends. I just went to Arcadia Music Festival with Aubrey and all them.
Yes.
And man, it was so easy to relate to people, to co-regulate with people. It felt almost effortless. Right? Because I always subscribed to the notion that, I'm an introvert, or I'm not a social person, or it takes effort to be social. When in reality, now it fuels me and it fills me, and this work and the friendships I've had and learning how to relate and learning even how to have conversations has been so tremendous in my life. So tremendous.
Wow. Yeah, man, I take that as a compliment, because I know you're a part of multiple communities out there. You've done all types of trainings and probably, been on some intensive experiences. So I really take that in. What's your review of Arcadia? I talked about it a little bit on here with Caitlin. Now that it's happened, I let everybody know, listen, I'm in dad mode. I can't really be going to Vegas for festivals these days. But how was it?
Man, it was so beautiful, man.
Good.
I was in the original 2019 FFS, so when they first kicked off the community. And 2019, 2020, I was hanging around. I was out of integrity, so I stepped away from the community. And being who I am now and how I'm able to show up, it was really amazing to be welcomed with open arms, by friends who I haven't seen for years, to form new friends, to really liberate myself, right? Because, man, I just love to dance. And I go wild, bro.
Gorilla Gang on the dance floor, too.
Yeah, I got a whole haka for it, bro. But, man, it was the lineup, the people. It attracted a really great crowd, really great community. Although it was in Las Vegas, Sin City,
yeah,
right? Like, the city is just the land that it was held on, but the community itself, like, the vibe definitely attracted the tribe. So I made a ton of new friends. I supported a lot of local artists, a lot of great artists, creators and orchestrators in a lot of ways, and saw some really cool things people were doing where it inspired me to get back into my creation.
Yeah.
Because the last month or two kind of been off. So it was that reminder that, wow, I can do this too. And I can just, throw on a banger and dance my face off, and man, I'm ready to create. And it was that simple remembrance, so highly recommend for sure.
Yeah. There's a bunch of our Sacred Sons community out there. Yeah, man, it's kind of interesting too, because that's another redemption. You redeemed like this kind of full circle moment coming back into Fit for Service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw a lot of the Sacred Sons bros out there.
Yeah.
Vince, Kevin, shout out to those guys. Rondon.
We were on the beach out here in San Diego last Sunday while you guys were on the dance floor. We had a little spike ball, football, fam jam out here in San Diego. The culture's running deep. They run Maui on Sunday with a sweat lodge and Kale pouring. It's beautiful to witness, like the communities, the regions. Arizona is just like fully dropped in, and I love to see it. So with that, I want to bring this conversation to a close, and I want to say thank you, man. Thank you for sticking through. Thank you for continuing to show up. At Sacred Sons, we say keep showing up. It's almost like the response to anything. It's like, where do I belong? Just keep showing up. Where do I belong? Keep showing up. You are one who has kept showing up, truly, in your own life and with us. And that's what we see. That's what we honor. That's what we acknowledge. And so with that, Nathan, on this road of redemption, is there any final words, any message, any prayer that you would like to leave with the brothers and sisters who are listening?
Man, I'm just holding that prayer that it's always okay. It's always going to be okay. And when we trust, magical things happen. All right, so just trust. In moments of doubt, in moments of uncertainty, in moments of chaos, in moments of violence, in moments of illusion and delusion, trust. It's not happening to us. It's not happening for us. It's happening with us, alongside of us, and through us.
Always and always. Follow Nathan Kohlerman on Instagram. The book Between Two Worlds will be dropping in 2024. Where else can people connect with you if they want to work with you, if they just want to, send you some love?
Yeah, I'm on pretty much every single social platform. Just look up Nathan Kohlerman, go to my website, NeuIntention.com, and here pretty soon I'll have the Spiritual Psychopath podcast up too.
Yes. The Spiritual Psychopath. And tell us quickly, how did you get the name The Reverend of Redemption?
Man.
I mean, we just heard it. We just felt it. But, how did you actually get the name?
Yeah, so this one group that I'm a part of, someone called me the pastor of disaster. For those who don't know, there's this guy, I forgot his name, but he goes by the pastor of disaster. And he used to run the podcast with Andy Frisella in First Form. And I was like, man, I can't be stepping on those toes. So ironically, I put in pastor disaster into an AI and I said, hey, what are some alternative options for this? And it said Reverend of Redemption. And I was like, bet that
so
one.
Dope. So dope.
Yeah. So praise to AI. It helps sometimes. Don't rely or depend on it though. Use it with intention, just as medicine and everything else. But that's how I got the name.
It's another tool in the creative toolbox that we have,
Mm-hmm.
And we can't let the tool use us. You gotta yield that AI with command as well.
Yeah, be the hammer, not the nail.
Damn, Nathan, this is great, bro. It was great to drop in with you. Great to hear and feel you. Yeah, man, I'm just leaving here feeling a lot of respect for all that you've been through and all that you continue to create as a part of your legacy. Fully see you in January. EMX Arizona. Brothers, go see Nathan, go see Andrew, Anton. With that, the spiritual psychopath himself, the Reverend of Redemption, Nathan Kohlerman, Adam Jackson, Sacred Sons. We're out, family. Peace.